Hello, welcome back to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet, weaving, all of the fibre related things. Now today's video is, as promised a few days ago, my little 12 cast ons round up. So if you happen to have stumbled across the channel for the first time, or you are new here in the last few days, you will have no clue what I am waffling on about. But there is a 12 cast ons playlist should you wish to go back and have a little watch. Basically the crux is that myself, along with some of the intrepid folk, our Yarn and Yarns community here, have been casting on since Christmas Eve, and the cast on portion of our make along goes right up until the end of January. We've been casting on between 1 and up to 12 projects to see us through 2022, or at least the start of 2022, depending on what folks have been comfortable casting on, to set us up for our knitting year. We've been putting some projects that we've been wanting to make on the needles. So I'm here just to do a little bit of a check-in, a little bit of a roundup. I've got some more community cast-ons to chat about, and I thought I would chat about a couple of the projects that didn't quite make it onto my needles, and also what I plan to do with all of the works in progress that I have now I have finished my cast-on part of the make-along. So I hope that sounds somewhat interesting to you. If it does, then grab yourself a cuppa. It is freezing here today, so I'm a bit bundled up in the craft attic. I've got myself a nice warm cuppa and we're gonna get stuck in. So yeah, just to reiterate, if you're still casting on, that's absolutely fine. The cast on portion of our make along goes through until the end of January. At the beginning of February, I will come back and I'll do a prize draw for the cast on part of our make along. And for the prize draw for that part, you don't have to have finished anything. You just need to have got your projects on the needles and posted a picture either over in our Ravelry thread, if you are a Ravelry user, on Instagram using the hashtag 12castons2021, and if you're not a social media user, then feel free to email your pictures of your cast-ons through to me at yarnandyarns@yahoo.com, and please mark 12 cast-ons in the subject. So please make sure that you've done that by the end of January, only if you do want to be entered into the prize draw. I know there are lots of folks out there who are just doing it for the fun of participation. In the last video, my video 12, I asked for people, if they were willing, able, want to let me know either how many projects they'd cast on or how many projects they were planning on casting on before the end of January, so that I could do a little bit of a roundup. And I know there's quite a few people who have been casting on who haven't commented, so this is by no means a full picture of our cast-ons, but in the last few weeks since the 24th of December, including my 12 projects, we as a community have given birth, brought forward into the world over 350 new projects, which just blows my mind. I tell you, you are all awesome. You're just fabulous. It's just, when I think a couple of years ago I was doing this slightly off the wall little thing of casting on 12 projects on 12 consecutive days by myself just for funsies, and now it's just, it's beyond fun. It's just amazing. And even if you're not casting on, there's been lots of encouraging comments to say that people have been working on their works in progress and enjoying the cast on videos. So yeah, thank you. Just thanks for being a wonderful community. Okay, since the last video, I've had a few community members letting me know about the specific projects that they've been casting on, what they've been up to, so I thought I would catch you up with that, as I know a lot of you have been inspired by what everyone else has been casting on for this make along. So the lovely Tina has cast on a pair of owl mitts, which is a pattern by Amanda Jones. Terry finished her setting sun cowl, which was her first ever brioche project. She said it is full of mistakes, but it's so squishy and her husband loves it, which is just amazing. And then as a celebration, Terry cast on most recently a forager sweater, which is a pattern by Melody Hoffman, but she says that her husband keeps giving her the look when she's working on anything but his Caldwell vest, which she cast on also for our make along. So it looks like Terry might be stuck making that Caldwell until it's finished. The lovely Jen has started spinning her Advent Rolags. Jen got a lovely nano electric wheel for Christmas, and she's spinning away on her Rolags and hopes to knit a cowl from the mini skeins that she makes. Laura has finished the doll that she made for her mum, a crochet doll, and has started Finn the Hippo, another crochet amigurumi, which just sounds adorable. Tori said she has managed to drag herself away from her spinning and has started a Dern sweater, which is a pattern from Rowan. Kathy B has started some hand-spun slipper socks, which just sounds so cosy and amazing. Kathy has also recently come into possession of a Latvian mitt kit, which she hopes to cast on soon, and is working on a Polworth silk spin, which just sounds amazing. Kate has decided to join our cast on party, so welcome to the party, Kate. We are so happy to have you here. And Kate has started an inclination shawl by Andrea Mowry. Angela has started some baubles by Arnie and Carlos and is hoping to make a lovely festive garland. Patricia, who is currently and I'm sure some people will be envious of this, but Patricia is currently experiencing 27 degrees heat where she is. Are you New Zealand or Australia, Patricia? I want to say New Zealand, which probably means Australia because my brain just does that sort of stuff to me. But Patricia has been keeping her air conditioning on so she can start a field scarf. Christy has started a cardigan for her mum. Sherry of the Twisted Die Kitchen podcast here on YouTube has started a Richmond Hill pullover. Pam, our lovely Pam, has started a Land of Sweets cowl and has also started spinning again, which makes me so happy. I'm so glad you've managed to get back to your wheel, Pam. I hope that you enjoy your spin. Jane said she had some woes when casting on a hat. She was getting all tangled up in her headphone cables, I think she said. Was headphones, wasn't it? And so she says she gave up on that and cast on a baby cardigan instead. And yeah, I hear you, Jane. Sometimes cast-ons just aren't working and you have to let it go for a while and come back to it another day. Anne, who has the No Excuses Knitting podcast here, says her next cast on will be, and she may have already cast on by now, the Unfolding Shawl, and she's also planning on more cast ons and hopes to get to 12 by the end of the month. Mairead said her final cast on were 2 pairs of socks for her cousins who are sisters, so she kind of sees them as one cast on. Which made me chuckle. Susan has started and finished a crochet frog for our unofficial frog along. Kathy said that she has had to frog one of her projects, which was a shawl she cast on as she ran out of yarn, but she's now repurposing that yarn into a cowl, so well done for ripping that out and starting with it again straight away. And Hazel, since she last left a comment, has been casting on a storm. So last time Hazel spoke to us, she'd cast on some hats, and since then she has cast on 3 pairs of socks, a monkey. I'm assuming you mean a toy, or is that another pair of socks? I know there are a few sock patterns that have got monkey names, aren't they? Some leg warmers. Oh, nice. A Vertices Unite, a Nutkin sweater, a Velocore sweater, and a Tansley, which is a top-down tunic jumper. And Hazel said the cast on party has rekindled her knitting and creative mojo, so I'm so happy that that's happened for you, Hazel, as a result of the make along, and I hope that you enjoy working on those projects going forward. It sounds like you've cast on some beautiful things. Finally, for the cast-ons, Francine has started an Advent Calendar Adventure 2015. It's a cowl come poncho, she said. She's also cast on a Tapansy cardigan, and she's using yarn from a local grower of alpacas. She's also cast on a Now in a Minute shawl, a pair of socks, and the Crofter's Cap, which she said she needs to modify slightly as the pattern is not quite big enough as written, so she's going to add in some extra motifs to see if she can make it work. So I hope that you do get to make it work how you want to, Francine. That's everything for the cast-ons, but I did have a question from someone in the community. So the lovely Susan asked if there was anyone here in our community who had any good resources to help with spinning wheel restoration. She said she's rescued an antique spinning wheel and is looking for information and resources to help her and her husband restore that wheel so that it's in usable condition again. It's not something I really know that much about, I'm afraid, but I said that I would ask on the channel here to see if anyone does have any good resources. So if you do and you'd like to leave that information in the comments for Susan below, I would really appreciate that, and I'm sure Susan would as well. So that's probably going to be my last community check-in, which makes me a little bit sad really, but do keep on casting on your projects, and of course use the hashtag over on Instagram. So if you're an Instagram user, you can go and follow that hashtag and look at everyone's wonderful project cast-ons and the progress that people are making. We've had a few finished objects as well, which is just amazing. If you're a Ravelry user, we've got our threads over on Ravelry too. Going forward, I hope to keep the motivation high for this make along, because we have had so many lovely projects cast on. I think I'm going to end up doing a monthly prize draw. So I've got some physical prizes to give away that have been donated, but I might pop in some pattern prizes as well, just as I say, to keep the motivation going. And I may also try, if I get time, to sort of share some of the finished objects as we go through the year, if I have people's permission to do so. So yeah, we'll try and keep the momentum going, as it's been such a lovely community event, and lots of people have commented on how much they've enjoyed and been inspired by hearing about other people's cast-ons. So hopefully we can keep that going through the year. I need to put my thinking cap on and put some time and effort into trying to sort of keep that community spirit going. So let's hope I can do that. So before I talk about my plans for my cast-ons and my other works in progress, how I'm going to tackle my big pile of project bags, I thought some of you might be interested to see some of the projects or hear about some of the projects that I almost cast on, because I had a big long list of projects that I was aiming for and not enough days, not enough needles, not enough project bags to be able to cast everything on. So here are a few things that almost made it to my needles. If you watched day 12 of the cast-ons, you'll know that I had a specific plan of what I was going to cast on for day 12, and then I was challenged to cast on something else, and I could not ignore the challenge. But always I had planned to cast on the Adventuresome wrap. The Adventuresome is a pattern by Amber O'Brien, and this is what it looks like on the pattern page. And I had planned to use the mini skeins that I received in the Advent swap that I did with my friends in December. And that was always going to be my last cast on until Kathy challenged me and I cast on a sweater instead. So the reason I'm talking to you about my almost cast on projects is that it's likely that if I do happen to finish one or two of my works in progress anytime soon, these will be the sorts of things that are likely to go onto my needles next. The other thing that I really wanted to try and get on my needles and then just ran out of time for was the Shift, which is a cowl pattern by Andrea Mowry, and you might have seen this pattern because it's a very popular one. So the pattern originally uses spin cycle yarn, which is a yarn that sort of barber poles in the same way that you can sometimes get with your hand spun skeins. You can create that effect with your hand spun. And I was gifted that pattern by my lovely friend Erin, and as I've been spinning throughout 2021, I have had that pattern in mind, and towards the end of the year I spun up this beautiful braid of Whiteface Woodland, which was a gift from my lovely friend Jeanette, and there was something about this braid which just kept calling Shifty to me. For some reason I wanted this to go into my Shifty, so I had a little look through my hand spun stash and I decided to pull out this skein, which was some fibre that was gifted to me by my lovely friend Jenny. So nice friends connections in these two skeins, and as the Whiteface Woodland has a little bit of purple in, I thought these two might start working together quite nicely for the Shifty. But I didn't really have a third skein that I liked together with these two. The aim was to try and spin something that was more on the green side. So the Whiteface Woodland has some purple in it, to sort of echo the purple in this skein, and I was going to almost do sort of a fadey type thing down towards some greens. But I just ran out of time to spin. My end of year, the last few months just were a whirlwind of different things, and it didn't happen. Originally I thought I might just cast on and then spin at some point for the third colour. However, I ended up starting my Love Note, which is a spin to knit project. I also started my Colourful Creativity Advent Calendar, which is going to be a spindle spin. So I didn't want to put sort of too many things on the needles that might require extra spinning that may or may not happen. So I decided to put that idea to one side It almost made it onto the needles, but not quite. And then I also had 2 sweaters that I was itching to cast on that didn't make it, and this one might be the most surprising for any of you who know me, because both of these sweaters were orange quantities of yarn. And they didn't make it to the needles, and I think I ended up casting on with quite a lot of green, I think, green and brown, and my orange, oh, it's just been left languishing, but they will get to the needles hopefully soon. So my first is a sweater, and I haven't, one of the reasons this one didn't quite make it onto the cast-ons was because I ran out of time to research my yarn versus the pattern that I wanted to use. I'm probably not making any sense, but last year I purchased several skeins of this beautiful ginger snap colourway from the lovely Thick Skein Dye Works, my lovely friend Angie, and I purchased it for an entirely different project, and I purchased extra, and then I decided that I had almost a sweater quantity. So I checked with Angie and said, was she going to be selling this colour anytime soon? And she said she was going to dye it. And then she completely surprised me during Vlogmas during December by sending me some more of the yarn. Now the dye lots are different, the base is the same, the dye lots are different, and the extra that she sent me was a slightly darker colour, but she did send me several smaller skeins because she thought there would probably be a difference in the dye batch. And I mean, these are just gorgeous, aren't they? Absolutely beautiful. And my thought was to cast on, I'm not sure how to pronounce this pattern, it's Bregne, B-R-E-G-N-E, and it's a pattern by Fibre Tales, and it's difficult to show in the pattern, but here's a picture. Probably doesn't show to the best there, but it's a pattern that has a herringbone detail across the top, and then it's plain stockingette. And my thought was to see whether I had enough of this slightly darker sort of ginger snap dye lot to knit the herringbone, and then I've got more of the slightly lighter shade, and I thought that could be the main body of my sweater. That was my thought for this sweater, and I think that will look beautiful. But I just ran out of time to figure out yarn usage and yarn quantities for that. But that's something that I really would like to get to in the not too distant future. And if the Bregne pattern doesn't work for the yarn quantities I've got a couple of other sweater ideas brewing in the back of my head for that one. And then the second orange sweater quantity that I had that I didn't get to is this pack of Rowan yarn. It is Rowan Soft Yak DK, which is a cotton yak blend. And I purchased that whole bag of yarn with the intention of knitting a Wonderlight sweater, which is a pattern by Tiff Nealon. And this pattern I purchased as soon as the pattern was released because I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's a very simple silhouette with a little bit of texture, short sleeves, which I love. I thought it looked slightly summery, which is why I went for the soft yak. And yeah, just ran out of days. Ran out of days and times. And I've had that sweater quantity sat there waiting patiently along with that pattern for ages, and I felt for sure that this round of the 12 cast-ons would see it on the needles, and it just didn't happen. So those are a few of the projects that didn't quite make it to my cast-ons, but you might see them in the not too distant future if I get the urge to cast on anything new, which I probably will, as ridiculous as that sounds. Then those are a few of the projects that might be upcoming at some point in 2022. As we stand, I currently have officially 21 projects on the needles, unofficially 22, because if you remember, if you watch Vlogmas, I have been working on a secret sweater test knit that I'm not allowed to share at the moment, and the deadline for that sweater is next week. So since I finished my cast-ons, I've mostly been working on that sweater, and I've just got, it's a sweater that's knit in pieces, and I've done the bulk of the knitting now. I've just got to join it up and knit the neckband. So officially 22 projects, but that is going to be off the needles, if not tonight, then in the next couple of days. So yeah, 21 projects, and then you think, where do I start? And if you have watched my videos in the past, you'll know that I've had all sorts of different approaches because I've always got lots of works in progress on the needles, and actually 21 is fairly tame for me. I've usually got closer towards 30, if not over 30 projects rumbling around in the background, which I know some of you will be out there gasping and you'll think that that's excessive. Some of you will be like, Tish, 22 projects, that's nothing. I enjoy having lots of works in progress to choose from. It's one of the reasons I do the 12 cast-ons. For me, the actual getting a project on the needles often is a hurdle, and it leads to me procrastinating. And for my mental well-being, my happiness, I like to be creating, I like to be knitting. So setting aside a couple of weeks every year to cast on a whole bunch of things that I then just get to pick up and choose from is how I like to work. But I appreciate that is not an approach that everyone would be comfortable with, and that's why, as the make along has opened up to the Yarn and Yarns community, that you can choose how many projects you cast on, and if you just want to cast on one to join in the cast on fun, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, I've had lots of different approaches in the past to working on my big pile of works in progress, from trying to be monogamous and working through a project until it's finished, to just picking up things as and when I fancy it, to having a sort of more focused approach where I pick a few projects to work on for a period of a week or a month, all sorts of different approaches. And I think I'm going to go for the sort of focused but varied approach again, at least for the next few weeks. Obviously we've got a couple more weeks left of January to get through, so after my test knit is done, I need to figure out what projects to work on. My aim going forward will be to always be working on one of my older works in progress, so the pre 2021 cast-ons, and then something from my new collection of cast-ons as well. For the next few weeks, I'm actually going to pick one project from my old works in progress and two from my 12 cast-ons. So my old work in progress, I know exactly what I'm going to be working on for the next few weeks, and that is my granny stripe blanket. I think this is my oldest work in progress, and I'm so close to having that finished. You might have seen me working on it through Vlogmas if you watched any of my Vlogmas videos. I was adding minis from an advent swap with my lovely friend Lisa to that blanket, and I know when I put that blanket away sort of last end of winter season, I was pretty close, although not quite as close as I'd wanted to be, to finishing that blanket. And my aim is to have that blanket finished by the end of February, and if there's an outside chance that I could get it done by the end of January, then that would be even better. So I'm definitely going to be working on that. The other project that I'm definitely going to be working on is my Staverness Touri, which is the first hat that I've cast on, which will go into a little collection box that I'm going to be having that will get donated to a charity, or maybe several charities, by the end of the year. And my aim is to try and knit at least one hat a month for that charity box, and ideally I'd like to try and make more. And for 2022, hats are going to be the new socks for me, so as soon as one hat is finished, another hat will go on the needles. And I feel like in the future the hats will be a little bit more simple. This one's a colour work hat because it was my random pick. If you watched the cast on videos, I just closed my eyes and picked a pattern book, and then I picked a hat from that pattern book. So yeah, it was a bit of potluck what I ended up with, but going forward I'm hoping to do a few more hats that are much simpler, maybe a little bit of texture, maybe a few cables, but to keep the knitting interesting, but to try and get through as many hats as I am able to, without putting too much pressure on myself again. But it'd be a way to use up a bit of stash, and also to send some knitted love out into the world. Also, you might recall, I started 2 projects that had a spinning element involved, which was new for the cast-ons. Usually I keep my spinning separate, but this time I started a love note, which mainly was just me fibre prepping. So I've got to finish my fibre prep, then I go on to the spinning, then I go on to the knitting. So that's definitely going to be a long-term project. But I also started a spindle spinning project from my Colourful Creativity fibre advent. And I would like to keep one or other of those spinning projects sort of burning away in the background as well. It's nice for me, like I really want to get back to some spinning, and it's nice for me to have a change from knitting every now and then. So my unofficial aim with my spindle spinning project is to try and spin up at least 2 of the 24 bumps of fibre that I got in my advent calendar. Ideally I'd like to spin more than 2, because I also, for a litmus cow, which is the project that I'd like to make eventually with the mini skeins that I make from my advent, I need to spin up a contrast colour. So ideally 4 would be better, like 1 a week. But I don't want to put like too much pressure on my making. I want to enjoy this. So spindle spinning I absolutely love, but it's also something I can only do for shorter bursts of time, particularly drop spindle, which is what I picked for my advent. If I was support spindling, I can do a little bit more at a time, because I can sit comfortably and do that. With a drop spindle it can be a little bit harder on my arms and my shoulders. Those spinning projects I think are hopefully going to rumble along in the background. But I want one more knitting project really to take with me at least through the next few weeks, and then we'll revisit and see where we go. And of course I'm excited about all of the projects that I started. If I wasn't excited about them, then I wouldn't have cast them on. So I'm going to employ the use of a random number generator. This could take a few attempts, because of course I'm going to ask it to pick a number between 1 and 12. It could pick my hat, which I'm already working on, and again it could pick one of my spins, which I'm going to kind of discount those. But I thought we'd have a bit of fun and do this and see how it goes. So I've just pulled up random number generator online, 1 to 12, 1 to 12, and we'll see where we go. Number 3. Number 3, what was day 3? Was 3 my love note? I have a sneaky suspicion it might have been. In which case we will need to generate again. Yes. this could be a long session. Don't worry, I'll edit it until we get to a number. Okay, let's try again. Ooh, generate. Number 9. Okay, what was number 9? Oh, interesting. Number 9 was my sea glass tea. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a bit of swatching, if not actual knitting, because if you remember, I had several skeins that I pulled out for my sea glass tea, which were mostly in the green colour range, and I wanted to do a little swatch before I carried on. I cast on and I knit the neckband and did the short rows, and then I wanted to do a little swatch to see how the skeins of yarn that I pulled out of my stash were going to play together for that. So there will be a little bit of swatching, if not much progress on the sweater, we shall see. Yeah, fun. So that's how I'm going to approach my cast-ons coming up, and maybe down the line I will have a definite sort of hankering to work on a particular project, and as we get further into the projects they'll become bigger. Some of them, I've got 5 garments that I've cast on, so some of them will be more portable than others, which will mean that depending on what I'm up to, some projects will get worked on and some projects will just go on the back burner for a little while. So yeah, it will be interesting to see which projects end up getting worked on and finished first. And yeah, I'm planning on making some project vlogs so that we can follow these projects through the year or years. Excited. I'm going to be working on a crochet blanket, a hat, a sweater, and hopefully a little bit of spinning as well. So exciting times over the next couple of weeks for me. Let me know in the comments below 2 things. 1, do you have any projects that you didn't get to cast on that you were hoping to or looking forward to, but just for one reason or another, if you either reached your 12 or you reached your maximum number that you wanted to cast on, maybe you just ran out of needles in the right size or project bags. Are there things that you wanted to cast on that you didn't get to? Let me know that as a part 1. And part 2, if you have been casting on with us, let me know which of your cast-ons you're either most excited to work on or that you will be working on. Because they could be 2 different things sometimes. I know a few people cast on for gift knitting and deadline knitting that had various deadlines attached, so you can't always work on the things that in your heart of hearts you really want to work on. So let me know that in the comments below. I know I've said it many times before, but thank you so much for watching both Vlogmas and for the 12 cast-ons. Thank you for your participation, for watching, for liking the videos, for leaving comments, for casting on along with me. Thank you to those of you who have been able to support the channel either by joining us over on Patreon. We've had a few new people over on Patreon, or if you have bought me a coffee to help support the content that I make here in the last few weeks, then thank you so much for that. It really does help me to keep putting aside the time to make these videos. I'm going to take a little break here on the main YouTube channel for a couple of weeks. I neglected the Patreon channel a little bit while I was making Vlogmas and Cast On videos, and I like to try and upload at least one video for exclusively for patrons. So I didn't manage to do that in December, so I'll be making it up to my Patreons by posting 2 videos at some point over the next couple of weeks there, which means I'm not going to have time to post here as well. So I'll be back here at the beginning of February with some more making content. I might pop up in the meantime with a shop update, but I know that's not going to be something that everyone's interested in. So if what's going on in the Yarn and Yarns webshop is not of interest to you, then I more than understand if you want to skip the next video, but I hope you'll come back for the next making video. And if for any strange reason you've not seen enough of my face over the last few weeks and you don't want to wait until February, then there's a link to my Patreon below, and you can sign up for as little as just £1 a month to get extra content over there, and it just helps me, as I said earlier, put aside the time to make the content here. So it's in large part thanks to Patreons that I'm here as often as I am. If it's not within your means to support on Patreon, I completely understand. You can find me in the meantime over on Instagram usually, and I'm going to try and check in on our Ravelry group a little bit more often as well. So there are plenty of places to find me in the meantime. Keep on reaching out to me, tagging me in on Instagram, leaving comments here, let me know what you're up to, because I have been absolutely loving seeing all of your wonderful projects. Until we get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.